There's no doubt that Juventus are an insanely talented team, but one of their problems in the last few years is they've got so many players, they almost don't know what to do with all of them. Aside from leaving a few world-class players out of their Champions League and Serie A squad this season, there are a few more players who should probably leave at the end of the campaign. So here are 5 players who could leave Juventus. First off, Gonzalo Higuan. Now, actually, it's kind of remarkable and pretty much a good tribute to him that he's managed to work his way back into the squad after leaving on 2 separate loans last year. He spent the first few months at AC, came back, then went straight to Chelsea. Both of them didn't work, so he went back to Juve and then actually started pretty well. Over the season, though, his form has waned somewhat, and with Cristiano Ronaldo, the main striker, Mandzukic completely left out of the squad, and with Paulo Dibala in there as well, Higuain still hasn't managed to muscle his way into too many games. So he's at that point in his career where he could probably still get a pretty good move. Teams aren't going to spend a huge amount of money on him. Juve won't ask for too much, and I just don't think he costs that much in the first place. And also, he'd still be good enough to demand a pretty good wage. It's not like he's finishing his career completely and he's going to have to go to a local team for like no money. I'm sure Higuain's still got one big move left in him, and having said that, I still think he'd do a pretty good job at some few European teams as well. Just at Juventus, I kind of feel like his time is up. But talking of someone who's done really well for Juventus to someone who hasn't, and in my opinion, should probably leave and come back to the Premier League, that is Aaron Ramsey. Now, as I've mentioned before, the whole fact that Juventus signed Aaron Ramsey was a little bit odd in the first place, but you could see why they did it because it was on a free transfer. They didn't have to pay Arsenal any money, which means they could pay the Welshman 400k per week. That puts him as one of the top earners in European football, something which he has not justified, not only in his career at Arsenal, but also on the pitch for Juventus. There was loads of injury worries surrounding him, and guess what? He came to Juve injured, and he spent most of the season injured. And when he has been on the pitch, he's really failed to live up to any sort of hype that Juve may have had before him joining. Don't get me wrong, he's a really good player. I think Arsenal would take him back. I think he'd be good for most sides in most divisions. I just don't quite see him as a leading central midfielder for a Champions League winners-elect. Not the Juventus are this season. Anyway, I'm not sure Ramsey is quite at that level, and especially if they're going to bring in other players that they've been linked with, namely Arthur and Pogba, then maybe Ramsey should look elsewhere before it becomes too difficult to even get in the squad, something that Emre Can found out. And talking of other midfielders who should leave, the next one's Sami Khedira, and this, along with so many other players at Juventus, is a pretty obvious one. He's a squad player at best. He's certainly not been the same that he was a few years ago, so maybe it's time to move on. Like I mentioned, if they're bringing in other midfielders, obviously Adrian Rabiot's in there as well, there's probably not going to be a space for him in the squad. In fact, he seems to be part of this era of German players that haven't really aged too well. I think after 2014 World Cup, it slowly went downhill a little bit for the likes of him, Boateng, Mats Hummels maybe, and Mario Götze as well. So maybe, just maybe, and again, like Higuain, there's still going to be quite a few teams who would definitely take him on, just not at Juventus' level. So next up, and to another player who doesn't quite fit in, probably why he's on this list of 5 players to leave the club, and that Daniele Rugani. Now, he was linked actually with a transfer away from the club last summer, but decided to stay and then watch them go and spend about 70 million euros on Matthijs de Ligt. Surely this hasn't really done his confidence any good, and in fact he has appeared in so few games this season, it's no wonder he didn't leave in January. He's 25 years old, so he's at a brilliant age. He's clearly a good defender, but he's only made 7 appearances this season. Add to the fact that he's still not pushing past the age-old Giorgio Chiellini and Leonardo Bonucci. Then they signed Matthijs de Ligt, who they're going to pursue with, because, well, they spent such a large amount of money on him. And then on top of this, they've also bought in Demiral last season as well. That currently makes Rugani 5th, maybe 4th choice centre-back of the club, and that's just not what you want to be doing in your mid-20s. There were rumours that United, of course there were, and Chelsea and a few other teams are interested in him, and if some of them came up, he should definitely be moving. Even if it's down to Europa League side pushing for the Champions League, that's still a pretty good case for Rugani to go and actually play football. There's no way as a footballer you can waste your mid-20s just sitting on the bench. So with Higuain, Ramsey, Khedira and Rugani all knocked down, there were of course some others. Bernardeschi was in there, Douglas Costa, Alexandro, Cuadrado. There's so many who don't quite seem to fit the system. But for the 5th and final name, I'm going for quite a big one, that is Paulo Dibala. Yes, I know you're thinking, that's absolutely outrageous to even suggest he'd leave Juventus. Well, is it actually? Last summer, he came pretty close to leaving the club with Spurs apparently so close to signing his contract. So much so that he even made a video saying goodbye to his Juventus teammates. Of course, we all know that didn't happen, a little bit too late, probably on Daniel Levy's part, but Dybala stayed with the club, and this season he's been in good form, but he's just not really the star man. Let's take a look at a few of his stats from the last few years. So in the 16-17 season, he was a support striker. He was just off Gonzalo Higuan and managed to get 19 goals and 6 or 7 assists. The season after that, even better, 26 goals, 9 assists. Things are going well, but then came Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, not only did he knock Gonzalo Higuan out of the squad altogether with those 2 loans that we were talking about earlier, but he also kind of knocked Dybala out of position. Now, it seems to me that when I watch Juventus, no matter which formation they play, Dybala is the one to be sacrificed. If they play a 4-3-3, he doesn't drop deep into the midfield 3, and he doesn't play in a number 10 role, meaning he's got to either go out wide, where he's fighting with Costa, Bernardeschi and a few others, or he's got to sit on the bench. He's not overtaking the forward role that Cristiano Ronaldo has, and it doesn't look like Juventus are going to be giving up on him anytime soon. This is evident with his stats from last season, with just 10 goals and 2 assists in all competitions. And although this season he's got 13 and 12, of those 25 goal contributions, 17 have come when he's actually playing in a central role. When he's out wide, Dybala is massively ineffective, and seeing as Juventus don't really play with a number 10, and he's not really going to be the main striker, I think maybe he should leave. As to where he's going to go, I've no idea. There's been so much talk that Messi has anointed him the natural successor to him at Barcelona, and that would be great. But moving now while Messi's still there leaves him with the same problem. No one else is playing central apart from Lionel Messi, so Dybala will be shifted out wide, much like we've seen with Antoine Griezmann, and things will probably go pretty badly. He's also not going to play central A because Suarez is there, and B, if he's not, they're looking at other strikers to sign, real goal getters. With Paulo Dibala, for me, he has to be the star of the team. He has to be the one who's sitting in that support striker role, in the number 10 role with a striker in front of him. The whole team is built around him for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. At 27 years old, he's coming into his prime and needs to be treated as such, both for his own career and for a team that he could literally be an absolute star for. So with that said and done, there you have it, the 5 players who I think could leave Juventus in the summer. But what do you guys think? That's what the comment section is for. Let me know your thoughts down below, whether any of these 5 will leave and whether or not you think some others deserve to leave first. Of course, whilst you're at it, you can smash the like button and click here or here to check out all of the other videos we've got going on OneFootball. But until next time, I will see you guys later.